welcome back to another video and welcome to Sammy G's World of Cinema. Today on the channel, guys, I'm going to do part 1 of my October horror watches special video. So I just thought, guys, we've just in the dedication of spooky season, horror season, I thought I would create a two-parter for all of the horror movies I have watched this month. And what I'm going to do, guys, is all the non-horror movies that I have watched in the month of October, I'm going to do a separate dedicated video to that as well, because there are just some non-horror films I've watched this month already that definitely deserves definitely deserves a spotlight on the channel. And wow, a couple of the new releases I've been to see, guys, I've been super impressed by the ones that I've went to see this month. Separated into two parts, this October Horror Watches special. And going forward, guys, I haven't totally decided yet. I think in terms of the monthly watches series, I think I'm possibly now starting to think about separating it into like two parts and stuff, or like maybe I might do weekly watches, but I really don't know yet, guys. I'm kind of just scratching the surface with all of this at the minute. But yeah, I've watched already about 21 horror films this month, but I'm going to talk about the first 16 horror films I've watched this month, and then the other remainder of the horror season, like the other horror films I've watched this month, I'll talk about in part 2. So yeah, guys, I was going to say grab yourself a cuppa, but I haven't got a cup of tea here at the minute. But yeah, definitely grab yourself a drink, guys, and get yourself a tea or biscuit or coffee, because yeah, this might be a bit of a lengthy video. We'll see how we go. But I kick-started the month with a first time watch for me, and I've got to give a massive thank you to Tim at Tim's Film Waffle for kindly passing on his Blu-ray edition of this to me, and that was the original Ring. Now, guys, I must admit, I kind of was put off by this film for a long time. It just looked super creepy, super chilling, and then but as Tim very kindly sent on the Blu-ray to me, I feel like I would have been doing this film a disservice, and I'm most grateful, of course, to Tim for kindly sending me this Blu-ray my way. But my goodness, guys, I was so surprised of how much I enjoyed this film. This turned out to be really good. And yeah, it's just what sometimes J-horror can do the best, you know, kind of just original ideas, and, you know, it kind of brings something new to like the horror genre there, and this is no exception here. So yeah, the original Ring, it's like basically, I think takes place around the autumn time of the year. I think at present day of when this film originally came out, which was 1998. And there's like this mysterious sort of like telephone call, and there's this like cursed videotape, and once you've watched this cursed videotape, you get a mysterious telephone call out of the blue, and it gives you like 7 days to live. And that is a bit of a running thing throughout this movie, and then it kind of spirals out of control, but it also entails for like an investigation led brilliantly by that main lady in there and that other guy. They were a brilliant detective duo in this film, but the mystery side of it surrounding this this character called Sadeko, I think it is. And it just really was so interesting to watch. I must admit, guys, it wasn't as terrifying as I thought it was going to be. However, there was still some creepy ass imagery in there and some really dark themes in this movie. The whole Sadeko crawling out of the well and hence crawling out the TV is a bit of an iconic part of the film, and it just sends you chills down your spine, and the movie just done its job there. But very curious now to see where this ending sort of like transported itself into the sequel, and I've heard the second film is quite good to this one. And yeah, guys, just a fantastic viewing yet again. And I've got to give a massive thank you to Tim for kindly sending me on the Blu-ray, because this was a fantastic watch and one of the best first time watches of the year. So the original Ring, I'm going to give an 8 out of 10 there. Then I was a bit late to the party with this film, but I thought better late than never. And I thought just the perfect time to finally watch this one, even though I probably should have watched this around Valentine's Day. It was still great to include this in my horror season, and that is Heart's Eyes. Yeah, this one got a bit of a mixed reviews, and whilst I didn't love this film, I didn't dislike it. I'm in the middle with this one. I think what kind of let this film down for me personally, guys, was just some of the characters were just absolute drips in this film. They were just so, excuse me, guys, I think I've just moved the camera a little bit there. I thought that there was one or two characters that was just a bit on the sleazy side. They just, you just couldn't really get behind them because they were just a bit irritating, a bit annoying, and one or two characters, oh my god, they just came across as obnoxious. But I think the Heart's Eyes killer is what kept this movie going for me. I think that is what carried this film. And there was some pretty brutal kills in there. I will say I much preferred this to something like Clown in a Cornfield, which I really didn't like at all. This, however, I did much prefer, and I thought it was just a really interesting take on the slasher genre with this Heart's Eyes killer. There was some pretty good kills in there. Like I said, the main couple weren't the most memorable of characters in my opinion, but yeah, I thought, as I said, like, and there was a good scene there as well by the outdoor movie theatre, and all set in on Valentine's Day, and you just wondering where is this Heart Eyes killer gonna strike next and stuff. But yeah, this was all right, guys. This was a decent movie. I probably would watch this one again, and if I am gonna watch this one again, it probably would be at around Valentine's Day, but not a bad movie, guys. Heart Eyes, I'm gonna give about a 6 out of 10. It was okay, this one. And a bit of a similar theme here. We have part 2 of Friday the 13th, which was a first time watch for me. And this movie was just all right for me, guys. Must admit, I did much prefer the original. I just thought that the set of characters were just a lot more interesting, whereas part 2, a bit like Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, a lot of the characters just weren't all that memorable or to write home about. I thought the main protagonist in Friday the 13th Part 2 wasn't the greatest, but certainly wasn't the worst either. Yeah, and it was okay. You know, I as I say, I kind of liked how this film was set 5 years after the original. The whole, like, sort of cabin setting was, again, pretty decent in this one as well. And quite a shock horror ending. And, yeah, so as I say, a couple decent kills. But, yeah, I think this one is a little bit on the unmemorable side, guys, if I'm being honest. It wasn't bad, though. It's certainly one of these, guys, I could easily just chuck on if I didn't want to think about anything too much. I think this is a good one to chuck on, but yeah, it's not bad though. Friday the 13th part 2, I'm gonna give a 6 out of 10 there. Then I went to Tyneside Cinema and I had a double bill, the Evolution of Horror double bill. And I went with Ryan and my friend Simon to go and see the double bill of Day of the Dead and Return of the Living Dead there. So Return of the Living Dead obviously has been doing the rounds of late because of the latest Arrow 4K edition. Day of the Dead is the one that they showed first. And yeah, guys, this still stands as my favourite of the Romero The Dead trilogy, which was, to my absolute surprise, a first-time watch for me last year. So that goes for Night, Dawn, and Day. But Day is my favourite. I just absolutely love this film. In the trilogy, has a different sort of feel and setting about it, and kind of like set almost a decade apart from one another, and kind of has a different subject sort of matter for each film. I like how this film has a bit of an experimental feel where you kind of get attached to like a zombie, and a zombie's like kind of, you know, like sort of like under like guard and in this scientific experiment called Bub. It's got a little bit of kind of like a military sort of, you know, like setting as well. Like there's this military sort of like addition to the story, should I say. But I just love the whole like underground sort of setting that this movie is going for. I think the main actress does a pretty good job as like the main leading like character there, who you really get behind. And I love the side character. I think he's called John, who is my favourite character of the movie. You know, like this set of characters in this military base, and they're trying to decide what to do with like the zombies and this set of characters. I just found that a real interesting take on this trilogy. But there's the guy there, the main general, who is an absolute knobhead in there. But you know what, guys? The actor, I've got to give props to that actor though. He does such a smashing job in the role there. I think he's called General Rhodes, I think. But the score is great, and it is just a fantastic film, guys. And really badass ending as well, that kind of leaves this film on like a bit of a, it kind of leaves a bit of sort of like an open door to where that could have concluded after that very last scene of the movie. But yeah, really good film. Day of the Dead, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. And Return of the Living Dead was surprisingly a first-time watch for me. Now, I'm going to be honest, guys. I didn't absolutely love this film as I hoped for. I certainly don't class this as one of my favourite horror movies. It's just not that for me personally. However, guys, it's still an enjoyable, fun ride of a movie where, again, you don't have to think too much when watching this film, and it's just a pleasing, fun popcorn flick at the cinema, and that's exactly what I got here. I kind of liked how this had a bit of a comedy theme that was playing throughout. These two guys that work at like this warehouse, and then accidentally there's this like sort of gas that is released, and it sort of like transforms to that graveyard, and then all the zombies come and rise out of the and all these zombies basically come on the rise, and they are, for the vast majority of the film, the movie, the great threat of the story. And also you've got this main group of young people that basically basically go and party out at this place. I think it's like a church, or this place where they go to party, and lo and behold, their sort of like party plans are put to a grinding halt when they learn more about this great zombie threat that is at stake here. And I just really enjoyed it, guys. There was some decent fun characters, unlike Heart Eyes and Friday the 13th Part 2. There was a lot more interesting characters in this film. I must admit, that main guy, man, the main older guy in it, he was so funny. Freddy, I think he was, but he was pretty comical. And yeah, I did like the main punk squad in this movie. I just thought they were a very entertaining addition to this. But yeah, like, again, I did like the look of the zombies. There was a good, solid soundtrack to this one as well. And yeah, I think that there's a lot of fun to be had with this one. And yeah, and the whole, I think this is kind of the first time that where you find that zombies would say brains in like the film as well. I think this was a little bit of a bit of a sort of a founding addition to the zombie genre with that element here, but just a really fun movie, guys. Whilst I didn't absolutely love this film like many other people did, I still had a good solid time with this one. So Return of the Living Dead, I'm going to give a 6.5 out of 10 there. First time watching this on 4K, and I had such a ball watching this on 4K. Again, I've got to give a massive thank you to Tim for kindly sending me the Arrow 4K edition of Carrie here. And yep, I had a watch along with Ollie very recently of another film that I'm going to talk about. I'll talk about that film in part 2 of this, but this is Ollie is actually going, I think Ollie is going to go and see this for the first time at the cinema. And I'm like, wow, Ollie, that I'm just so jealous of that. Your first time viewing a Carrie is going to be at the cinema. I hope you have an amazing time, Ollie, when you see this film, because I absolutely love this film. This is one of my favourite ever horror movies, and one of my favourite Stephen King adaptations. I just like how you focus on Carrie White's character, who is just a bit, she's very shy, very quiet, and I think I liked the quiet tone of the movie, where, you know, like, Carrie is someone that she's kind of very herself to herself character, but you know, like, as the film goes on, you find that there's more to her character than meets the eye. And it's just a really great movie, guys. I just, again, love the build-up. The build-up is brilliant. But as well as that build-up, you do learn here and there about what Carrie is capable of. She's got these really, you know, like, supernatural sort of powers, and you can see that is going to make a bigger impression as the movie goes on. And I think this film did a brilliant job at it. I think Brian De Palma really succeeded on kind of the adaptation of this film, but just an awesome movie, guys. And there is a really cool side characters to this as well, with John Travolta and Nancy Allen, who would also, about 5 years after this movie, would go on to starring in Blowout, which is coincidentally also directed by Brian De Palma. This is just a great film. I love the quiet score to this one as well. And again, who is it? Sissy Spacek. She does a fantastic job in the main role as Carrie here. And I actually really like the main PE teacher, who is a great supporting role to the story. So, yeah, Carrie, fantastic film, guys. And an absolute, sort of a prom night you'll never forget. It is in this film. So, Carrie, I'm going to give an 8 out of 10. Fantastic film. Rosemary's Baby. Now, this is a film, admittedly, the first time I watched it, I really didn't get on with it. I just wasn't a fan. I just found this film to just be moving at a snail's pace, and I just felt the main sort of like sinister, sort of like horror theme of this movie that it was going for, I just found a little bit too little left to be desired. But on second viewing, guys, about 3 years ago, on second viewing, I came to really admire and appreciate this movie, and I've watched it I think I've watched this film about 5 or 6 times now, and it's just brilliant. I love this film now. It was a film I didn't enjoy the first time around, but now ever since that second viewing, I have really come to appreciate this movie more and more with each viewing. Now, don't get us wrong, guys. This film is probably not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I can see why there might be people that might not get on with this film, which is, I can perfectly understand that as well. But for myself personally, guys, I freaking love this film. I just think it is such a fantastic watch. Like, you see kind of this couple, one is a TV star, and then he's a TV star, and then this lady who, like, I think she works at home, I think, Rosemary Woodhouse, I think it is, and yeah, they move in, like, her and her husband move into this apartment in New York, soon discover that their neighbours are a satanic cult, like a satanic group, and strange happenings and strange going on. It is like is a bit of a running thing throughout the movie. And then when you learn that Rosemary is pregnant and she's kind of a bit overwhelmed with this new experience, but more to the point where she might suspect that this newborn could be like the son of Satan. And that builds up, and that tension, that real paranoia as well that is centered around this film. I just think the writing side of this film is brilliant. Not to mention the damn fine acting in this film. Like, Mia Farrow is incredible in the main role, and Ruth Gordon as the main neighbour in there, I think it's Minnie. She is superb. I can see why she won the Oscar at the time for her performance in this, because my goodness, she is fantastic in this film. And like everyone in this film just puts in 110% to their screen time. It is just fantastic. The whole dream sequence of this movie is so chilling, and when you've got that real brooding music that amplifies that down to a T here, it's captivating, but it's just it has a very unsettling presence that is peppered here and there throughout, and it's just really, this film is just unbelievable. It's fantastic. And the more and more I watch this movie, I pick up on something new about it as well. And I've heard I think it's the sequel. Is it the sequel or the sort of like the remake or something called Apartment 7A is meant to be quite good, so I might have to look into that, to be fair. But yeah, and my goodness, that ending as well, guys, is super chilling as well. But yeah, just a fantastic film. I guess you can call this a drama as well as a horror, but it has every right to be as part of the horror genre. Just with, you know, there's just things about this that, you know, like really ticks off the boxes for being part of that horror sort of like genre there. So Rosemary's Baby, fantastic film, guys. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 there. I had a rewatch of the 1922 Nosferatu. Now, I fucking love this film, guys. This is my favourite rendition of Nosferatu. I think it always will be. However, I wasn't a fan of the 1979 version of Nosferatu, which that could be an unpopular opinion because I know that movie has its fans. But the 2024 Nosferatu, I had a quality time with that film. But this is definitely my favourite version of Nosferatu, and yeah, just a wonderful, wonderful, like, silent classic. Like, this was one of the first few silent classics I watched, and wow, it is just breathtaking. Like, what you're seeing on screen, it just speaks for itself, you know, from the set designs to kind of that, again, that symphonian score that just really amplifies the atmosphere. And you've got that, you know, and just the whole trees and the woods and the ship and this whole plague that spreads out, and it makes it quite claustrophobic. It is just an amazing film, and Max Schreck is absolutely fantastic in the main leading role, which does remind me, I do need to check out that, I think it's the biopic called Shadow of the Vampire, which is a biopic about the making of this film. So, yeah, absolutely wonderful film, guys. Possibly my second or third favourite horror film ever, and one of my favourite films of all time. I have watched this, I think, for about the last 12 or 13 years in a row now, and I never ever get tired of it. So Nosferatu 1922, 10 out of 10. Bloody ace indeed. Nightmare on Elm Street, the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, I've seen the first 4 Elm Street films, and I think it's fair to say this one is still my favourite, but I absolutely love Dream Warriors. That has now got to be one of my favourite sequels ever. I just think that is a fantastic instalment into that film series. But the original Nightmare on Elm Street is just a wonderful example of how you do a horror film series, it's the start of a horror film series, and also kind of like a main sort of like slasher villain, and this is just a perfect example of that. This is just brilliant, and with no pun intended, nightmare fuel. I just think, again, Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger is just one of the most iconic, you know, like, horror villains put to screen. I think it is just, Robert Englund just absolutely excels in the role there. But it is just a fantastic first installment. Obviously, Johnny Depp, this was a massive, you know, deal for him, with this being his first ever role in the film. And he does play a pretty important part of the film as well, where obviously he's got to make sure that Nancy is okay, and he's got to, like, keep watch to make sure, like, nothing bad or nothing drastic is coming out of, like, from each corner. So he does play an important part to this film, but this is great. I mean, a great sort of, like, look at as well of how the whole nightmare theme, it really has a everlasting effect on one character to the next, and what happens when these nightmares occur, and where this character is at that present and that time. It is just quite original for its time, I think. I don't think there's been, like, a horror film before this that's really kind of dealt with the whole nightmare scenario like what Wes Craven did here. And it's just a really good film, guys. You know, some iconic scenes, you know, with Freddy's face coming through the wall, and, you know, like the whole, like, sort of shit show that happens at that prison, and yeah, basically Glenn, played by Johnny Depp, who's basically trying to keep awake for all his might, and he like watches the TV, listens to the radio at the same time as well. The whole furnace as well, and Nancy's mother telling Nancy about the whole backstory with Freddy Krueger. It is just a really, really good film, guys. I love John Saxon's character in there as well as Nancy's father. Just a fantastic film, and one of the greatest horror films ever, I think it's fair to say as well. So Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm going to give an 8 out of 10 there. A rewatch of one of my other favourite ever horror films, and that is American Werewolf in London, which doesn't need any introduction from me. You know, we all know the film, we all love the film, and it is just wonderful, isn't it? Like, I just think this is one of the best examples of how you do a transformation scene, front, left, right, and centre, but also just the werewolf design and just the whole setting that this film it has gone for is just, it's like a match made in heaven with its premise here. And yeah, John Landis, man, hats off to this guy, because he just gave us one of the best horror films ever put to screen. It's like a film of two halves, where the first half of the movie you focus on, like, the Yorkshire Moors and the Slaughtered Lamb pub, and it kind of transitions itself onto sort of like present day London at the time, and then you see Jenna Agutter in this film and her chemistry with David. Fantastic film, guys. I absolutely love it. You know, like, Griffin Dunn's character's brilliant in there. It is just one of the best horror films ever. Also Frank Oz as well. The cinema setting as well, that cinema movie theatre scene as well is just brilliant. Like, one of my favourite scenes of the movie, but also the again, the opening scene with Blue Moon playing in the background. And yeah, it's just a wonderful film from start to finish. So American Werewolf in London, I'm going to give an 8.5 out of 10, guys. I was going to just settle for an 8, but you know what, guys? Fuck it, let's bump up the score, shall we, to an 8.5, because this is a film I'd watch every single year and I never ever get tired of. So another horror film and another werewolf film, and that is The Howling, which certainly didn't have me in stitches. See what I did there? But really good film, guys. Not as good as American Werewolf in London, admittedly, but still a pretty good, solid werewolf movie on the whole, where I just liked the whole kind of like that you focus on, like, this main character where she is, I think she's called Karen, I think she is. And she's basically like this news presenter. Someone out of the blue is kind of threatening her, and she's getting kind of this she's getting really sort of uptight and a little bit paranoid of what's happening from each corner. And then she goes to therapy, and then she decides to take a vacation, take time off work to this like coastal islands there with her husband, and they meet the sort of the people in like that live in this like this coastal sort of like this set in this town. But they find that these people are not all what they seem. So a little bit similar to Rosemary's Baby there, where Rosemary and her husband move into this apartment and they find out that these residents are not all what they seem. And this is a bit of a similar thing that happens in this film. And yeah, guys, pretty good werewolf movie here. I did like, again, pretty cool, like sort of take on sort of the werewolf subgenre, but you've got some really interesting characters in there as well. Like you've got that main, like again, psychiatrist who's a good addition to the story. I'm not as big on Karen's husband in this film. I do find him a little bit of a sleazeball, to be honest, but the main very attractive lady in there, like who's like one of these werewolves, she's great in this film as well. But yeah, kind of again the woodland settings that just makes it kind of claustrophobic, and you don't know where these werewolves are going to strike next. And also I do like the whole setting with the barn. That ending is very daunting indeed, and it kind of leaves this film on a bit of a hanging threads there. But yeah, good film, guys. And yeah, Joe Dante as well. Probably, I think, one of Joe Dante's first films. I think one of his early films. And yeah, he would go on to delivering some more excellent movies. And this is just a really great example of how a werewolf movie is done there. So yeah, The Howling, I'm going to give a 7 out of 10 there. There are some like slow-paced moments here and there, but overall it's pretty good, and I do quite like this one. Then guys, I went back to Friday the 13th territory and I watched part 3 for the first time, and I've got to say, guys, I had a far better time with this one over part 2. Like, I didn't dislike part 2, don't get us wrong. I thought that it had its fun moments, but I just found the story here a lot more interesting. Part 2, to some degree, a little bit of a carbon copy of the first film, whereas this did something a little bit fresh and different. And yeah, and then you really get the whole picture and image of Jason really shines through here and comes to town. But my goodness, guys, there are some brutal kills in there. One by the lake and one in the barn as well. As, you know, shit hits the fan big time in this film. And again, a pretty good like set of characters in this. I thought the main girl in it was a pretty good protagonist. That Shelley character, man, who is a little bit on the prankster side of things, but you know, like a bit of an entertaining addition to the story. And I did like, again, the main black guy in this film was a pretty good character in this film as well. So yeah, a decent like story to this one, you know, of course set at Camp Crystal Lake as well, and you know, like again, enjoyable set of characters. And yeah, it's pretty good. Again, you get to see the you know, the real first glimpse of Jason and with his mask, and then that would transpire onto like you know, future installments along the way, which I very much plan on getting to in due course. Pretty good film, this one, guys, and an overall yeah, decent ending to this one as well. So Friday the 13th part 3, I'm gonna give a 7 out of 10 there. Next up, I had a rewatch of the first Scream film. So yeah, Scream, like with Nightmare on Elm Street, just another really great first installment into this horror film series, and just a great introduction of the Ghostface killer in this movie. And yeah, this is just a really good sort of like example of how you do a 90s slasher, but you know, like making callbacks to like other horror movies, and just the whole blockbuster segment of the movie, I think, does that justice here. Having like a group of people and they're being really into horror films, I just think really helps that, with kind of it being a bit of a love letter to those horror films, but as well as telling a really good kind of original take on this slasher subgenre. And yeah, the opening scene with Drew Barrymore is just so iconic. It is brilliant. Great characters as well, like Sydney and Dewey, and and Billy as well. There's just other like really cool characters that you're just really on board with. There's the weather lady. Is it the weather lady? The news lady, Gail Weathers as well. A bit like Nightmare on Elm Street as well. You've got a really kind of like interesting sort of side story of the whole family background as well, with like kind of and this time around kind of like with Sydney's about Sydney's mother, and you learn about her like backstory with that, which I found a really interesting part of the film, and how this anniversary intertwines with sort of what's to come in store later on in the movie. It's just really good, and yeah, I think again that there's just some great like again twists and turns, brutal kills as well from the Ghostface killer in there, and that reveal at the end is pretty iconic as well. So yeah, good, great movie, guys, and definitely one of Wes Craven's best, absolutely. The original Scream, I'm going to give an 8 out of 10 there. One of my favourite ever horror films, and to my absolute surprise, I've never seen any of the sequels, and that is The Omen. Now, such a sheer coincidence with this one, I actually watched this on the same night when I reached 666 subs, 666 subs, like 666 subs. Like, that was just such a sheer coincidence. And that was the same night I rewatched this movie. Quite spooky, that. But The Omen, absolutely fantastic film, guys. A bit like Rosemary's Baby, or like even Carrie, where you'll have a character that's a bit on the quiet side, but the whole tension and the suspense is very much alive and kicking in this movie, and you know, it makes inroads for the real sort of daunting, sort of like horrifying effects that is to come front, left, right and centre as the film progresses there. And it's just really good, guys. Again, Damien as the main Antichrist, the antagonist, you know, a real threat to the story, as well as the main nanny in there. And, you know, like, I absolutely love the whole story going for it with the main parents, Gregory Peck, and the main actress who's brilliant in there as well. I absolutely love the side cast with David Warner and Patrick Troughton. Just again, brilliant additions to the story here. And again, there's some real dark twists and layers that this film has got going for it. And yeah, again, that whole scene by the zoo, and that scene in Italy with those barking dogs, and one brutal kill that strikes in one scene of the movie. You know, very daunting stuff indeed. And yeah, and then, you know, when you see Gregory Peck is learning about the Antichrist, and and he finds out more about what that entails as this film goes on, and it kind of interlinks with Damien in this film. But just a fantastic horror film, guys. That music as well, man, is just so eerie. It's so mesmerizing as well. So yeah, The Omen, I'm gonna give an 8.5 out of 10 there. The second time seeing this film on the big screen, and again, guys, not just one of my, now this is not just one of my favorite horror films. This is one of my favourite horror films, sorry, but this is also one of my favourite films of all time, and potentially my favourite John Carpenter film, and that is The Fog. So, yep, I went to see this at Cineworld in Newcastle, and this might have been my best experience yet at this film. This just looks so good in all its glory on the big screen. It was absolutely fantastic to take up the opportunity to see this on the biggest screen possible. And everything about this movie just really shines through here. I love the whole Antonio Bay setting, the 100th anniversary of The Fog, and the main DJ. She is a fantastic main character, but I love the main sort of pairing in there with Tom Atkins and Jamie Lee Curtis. The whole opening scene with the storytelling side and about the 100th anniversary of this fog is a real chilling way to kickstart the movie there, and that amazing score that just carries that as well. Absolutely wonderful in every level. And the main threat to the story with these pirate figures as well. And you know, as soon as this fog just rises, you know that this sort of bundle of characters are in for a bit of a bit of a spine-chilling ride, and that really just amplifies the atmosphere there as well. And it is just an incredible film, guys. One of the best films I've ever fucking watched, and it stands as one of my favourite ever films in general, one of my favourite ever horror films. And and that final act as well, it just really ramps things up to third gear there. So I also love the side story with there's Janet Leigh's character, that other main lady, and then Hal Holbrook as the priest. Just absolutely brilliant on every single level, and I'd love to do a dedicated review of this for the channel someday. So The Fog, I'm gonna give a 10 out of 10. Absolutely love and adore this film in every way, shape and form. Then, guys, the second to last film to talk about for part one of this, and I had another rewatch, and that is Salem's Lot. Now, this was only a first-time watch for me last year, the original Salem's Lot, which I think was quite ironic. I watched this for the first time last year only because the remake came out around the similar time there. But yeah, I've heard the remake's actually alright, actually, so I wouldn't mind taking a look at that. But this original version, guys, is great. I love this. Yeah, I think it's great that you kind of can watch this as one piece, because I think this was originally a TV miniseries that you now can watch as one piece, as one movie there, and it is about 3 hours. But yeah, did watch this one into 2 parts, admittedly, guys, but just a really great again, Stephen King adaptation here, and I've heard the book is brilliant. That main vampire is a great threat to the story. David Soul as this writer that moves into town, and this small town, and he's, you know, like working on this novel, and he finds a mega inspiration from this big mansion, this big house, where this main character, played by James Mason, moves into this big house at the same time as that, and there's this kind of this mystery feel about the movie. There's this disappearance of one or two characters, and David Soul's character thinks it's all interlinked with this big mansion that he can pretty much see in front of his very eyes there, that he can feast upon this, and it is just good, guys. It is a great sort of like adaptation of this story. There's a couple of really cool side plots as well. Like, you've got that side story with that main young lad in there as well, where he's got this fascination for like these goblins and demons. And then you see that iconic moment where he sees that young kid that, you know, like it appears at the window, and that music is just so daunting. It really just spices up that tension there, and yeah, and that is a really good sort of part of the horror theme that this movie's going for. But also, guys, yeah, just again, I love also the some of the acting as well, and also you've got that other side story with that guy that I think he's just lost his job, and he's kind of a bit lost, like, and stuff, and he appears at this diner one day, and then he like is temporarily staying at this house, and then you learn about that his character is keeping like a bit of a dark secret there. And when that vampire strikes out of nowhere at that dinner table, it just really elevates the sort of the mystery aspects of the movie to, now it's kind of revealed and you know what is at stake here. So yeah, just really good stuff, guys. And again, absolutely love the setting to this one. James Mason, who plays a very quirky and yet sort of interesting sort of character, that you know, kind of through his presence, that something kind of is kind of a bit unsettling at unease there. So yeah, also I did like the main side story as well with that couple. That main guy who's like a lorry driver, and he's got that suspicion that his wife is cheating on him. So there's a couple of other cool side stories in there. So Salem's Lot, I'm going to give a 7.5 out of 10. And the last film to talk about for part one of my horror October watches video, and this was a first time watch, and Alan Scouser will be so proud of me that I finally sat down and watched this for the first time, and that is the 1958 Dracula. So admittedly, guys, I've never seen the Universal Monsters 1931 edition of Dracula, but this was great, guys. This is a great first time watch of the year. Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing just do wonders for this sort of retelling of the Dracula story. When you learn about that, this journalist played by Peter Cushing, I think he's called Harker, who just moves into town. He's kind of learning about you know, like this sort of mysterious figure under the name of Dracula, played by Christopher Lee. And then he kind of sort of is working through his diary to kind of jot down anything that he thinks is a little bit sort of on sort of the unsettling side of things. But also he learns that this character, this isn't the first or last time that he sees him, when obviously Dracula discovers about Harker's wife, and he will do anything in his power to basically transition her into a vampire, and Harker then goes to Dr. Van Helsing for help here and assistance. And this is, yeah, just really good, guys. Just a great, you know, Hammer horror take on this Dracula tale. And again, I just like how it's got a very autumnal, cozy feel about it. You know, it's quite inoffensive and that, and it's just a really good telling of this story as well. And this again isn't the last time Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing work together. No, this is the last time Christopher Lee is in the main leading role of Dracula here, and it's definitely got me now the urge to check out the sequels to this. And I've heard a couple of them sequels are meant to be really good to this as well. So yeah, the 1958 Dracula, guys, I'm gonna give an 8 out of 10 there. I thought this was pretty damn awesome, I must admit. So guys, that's it for part 1 of my October horror watches video. So yeah, guys, I did had about 5 other movies that to talk about here, but I will save that for part 2 of this. So yeah, this isn't the last time that this isn't the first or last time I'll be talking about what I've been watching during spooky season. So I can't wait to do part 2 of this, because I'd imagine in the next couple of weeks I will be watching again some of my all-time favourite horror films, and trying to watch a couple of other horror films for the first time as well. So yeah, guys, do let me know your thoughts on any of these horror movies. What's your thoughts on them? Do you have any of these in your collection? I would love to know all of that good stuff in the comments down below there. And I hope everyone is having a wonderful October so far. And do let me know, guys, some of the horror movies that you've been watching so far into spooky season, and I'll be back for more content soon there. So thanks for watching, cheers for stopping by, and until next time, I'll see you for the next video. Bye bye, take care, guys.